I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Lancaster Affordable Housing Trust of Thursday, May 2nd, 2024 via Zoom at 7:01 p.m. And this meeting is being recorded and will be available on Town Hall streams and on the Sterling-Lancaster cable. We'll do a roll call attendance. Trustee Jason Allison. Oh, Jason, are you? Okay, I heard you. Trustee Carolyn Reed.
Here.
Trustee Frank Streeter.
Here.
Trustee Deborah Williams.
Here.
Trustee ex officio Kelly Dolan.
Here.
And trustee and chair Victoria Petracca is present. We have a full house. Yay. And Brian, I see you're here. Thanks for joining us. I just want to mention again under administration that our beloved trustee Carolyn Reed is leaving due to her upcoming move. And so I just wanted to be on record again that we've made this announcement twice now at our other meeting and at this meeting. I understand that there is someone interested who sent in a letter of interest. So we'll see if anybody else wants to toss their hat in the ring. And Carolyn, just let us know as you get closer to your move when your last meeting will be. I noted like maybe June, maybe July, but you'll let us know.
Very well.
And
Quick
my
question,
understanding
Victoria.
for that. Oh, yes.
Has this opening been posted on the town website yet?
So that's a great question, Frank. I wrote to Kate Hodges, our town administrator, about it, and said we want to follow all the protocols and, please go ahead and post and so forth. And she wrote back to me. She didn't mention posting it, so I'm going to follow up with her again. But I agree. I thought it would have to be posted. So that's why I reached out to her a couple weeks ago, pretty much right after Carolyn let us know. So I'll make a note to follow up with her again because I want to make sure we follow all the protocols. And she said that they had received a letter and that they had sort of set it aside until after they get through the elections and that whole process is over, and then they're going to look at any letters and so forth. But I agree. I think we need it posted as well. So I'll send her another notice about that. I did want to add one other thing under administration, just that I sent a note out today to the trustees that haven't done their updated training for the conflict of interest laws. So if you got one of my little emails, it just means that you have to make sure you find 10 minutes to take that training, and the link is included. So it's painless. I just recently did mine. It's kind of interesting actually to read the stuff, and it makes sure that our board is fully compliant. So it's important to take care of. And moving right along, approval of meeting minutes. Frank, thank you so much for sending out the minutes for our April 4th, 2024 meeting. Any motion to approve those minutes this evening?
So moved.
Discussion. Thank you, Carolyn. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Deb. Any discussion on the minutes? No? Okay. Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Trustee Jason Allison.
Yes.
Trustee Carolyn Reed.
Yes.
Trustee and Secretary Frank Streeter.
Yes.
Trustee Deborah Williams.
Yes.
Trustee and Chair Victoria Petracca, yes. The motion passes. The minutes of April 4th, 2024 are approved. And Frank, I trust you'll get those over to the town clerk for posting. He's muted, but Frank.
Yes. Sorry
okay.
about that.
It's okay.
I keep myself muted because I have two dogs here, and you just never know what you're going to get for background noise.
I totally understand. I just want to make sure that you get them posted. So it's all good. Thank you. And
I now have a reminder to do same because I can, I've never had to do it for the library. Library staff always does it. So it took a while to get in that mode. But yes, I'll make sure that they are posted, and the clerk's office has been fantastic.
All right. Good stuff. We don't have any scheduled appearances this evening. Progress on the housing production plan. So I circulated an email from community scale, Nels Nelson. Did everyone get that email? It's his bullet pointed update for us for this meeting, which I just want to do as a matter of practice with him, make sure that we're kind of watching and making sure that we are on track with that. And then if there's big stuff he needs, we can always have him come in for discussion. But in essence, they're rolling along with the stakeholder interviews, which is great. Kelly, can you give us some feedback on how that went? I think he started the interviews with yours.
No, I actually did not have that. It didn't happen, so I can't give you any updates, but I look forward to being able to do that. And if you want me to, I can let you know when mine is actually going to be scheduled for.
Yeah, that would be helpful. I think he thought he was going to have it with you yesterday, but it sounds like it didn't happen. So yeah, let us know. I'm just curious to know, how they go and so forth, that they're, good and fruitful and everything that we would expect and all that. Yeah, just let us know. And he also gave Brian and I the list. Brian, do you have that list by chance? I can look through my emails, but the list of who he would plan to have interviews with? Brian?
Yeah, I just looking for my mute button here. I can never see.
Okay.
Well, there was
I think
Frank,
that-
Kelly, Alita from the schools, Rob Alex from zoning, chair
Yep.
of zoning, and I think there was one more. I looked. I have it in
Oh,
my.
here it is. I just found it. You're absolutely right. It was Kelly and Frank in his role of chair of the planning board, Rob Alex, chair of the Board of Appeals, Alita Masterson from Neshoba Regional School District, which I believe I thought she was like executive assistant to the superintendent. I wasn't sure why he was.
Oh, maybe I may have given him her name just as the person to connect to talk to find out who would be the best person.
Okay, that makes sense.
I don't know a lot about the schools yet. I don't know the personalities over there. I don't know the leaders. So, but she is a person that I talk to frequently about these grants, about outreach, especially.
I think that's a great starting point, and then he can identify who within the school district is the person. So, okay. And then the last one was Brad Stone, the new conservation agent.
Yes. I mean, probably if I haven't talked to Brad about it yet, but he probably should eat because he really has just been here just 2 weeks. He could probably either do it, but probably in collaboration with Tom Seidenberg, perhaps.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
And for Council on Aging, Kelly, do you want him to interview the chair, or are you going to cover our senior housing?
Yeah, I believe I was going to be covering that on behalf of.
That works. Nope, all good. And then what about Commission on Disabilities? I know we cited them last time.
I will be the lucky recipient for that one as well. I actually oversee them as well. I'm happy if you want me to send out a personal invitation to them, though. If anyone else wants to join, I can do that even tonight.
That would be great. Actually, that would be really good. And if you wouldn't mind doing the same thing for the Council on Aging, I want people to speak up now rather than we publish this report and people say, I didn't realize this was going on.
Yeah, will do. Absolutely.
Okay, that sounds good. I think that covers it for his interviews. And then I did want to note that he reached out to Phil DiMartino at the state. Phil is in charge of housing production plans. He does a few things, but one of the things he does for the Commonwealth is he oversees the housing production plan process and approvals and all that stuff. And there was that question about it. We know it has to be 5 years, but could it be like 25 to 30, 2025 to 2030? And he said no. He confirmed that it does indeed start with this year because our old plan expired in March. And so this one has to be 2024 to 2029. So at least we know, we got the answer and it's locked in. So there was that. And then he listed all of the various charts and categories of demographics that he's working on, and those are coming out of the state's requirements. He didn't pull those out of a hat. That's all, everything in there is a requirement of EOHLC. So that's great. He's got the marching orders, so he's compiling all of those updated demographics, which will be a requirement to get approval. He listed our goals at the end. Did everyone see that? And I think he has them all. I don't think he missed anything. But the only thing I would say is, depending on how those demographics come back, just above that, we may want to tweak them. Actually reading the demographics, what we find out may inform us about additional goals. But he's got the maintain safe harbor indefinitely, reduce cost burden, provide housing at lower levels of area and median income. That's a big one. Provide housing for focus groups, including seniors and disabled. I would add veterans if we could. Use environmentally sustainable methods to meet the housing goals. How does that look to folks? Do you think have we missed anything? Was there anything else that we talked about? No, I see Carolyn's shaking her head no. I think he's on track.
I know our goal is to maintain safe harbor indefinitely, but when we list that as our first goal, it kind of makes it all about us instead of all about affordable housing. That's my only observation, just looking at the list. Obviously, it's a top priority of the town. It probably deserves to be the first thing on the list. That was simply my first impression.
Point well taken. I'm open to shifting these as priorities.
I'd wait till you see your demographics and all the rest.
Okay. Thank you, Frank. Any other feedback?
I mean, let's be honest, it's true.
Well, it is true. I mean, it is important to get into safe harbor and be compliant. But I agree. I don't want to send a message that, that's it. We pack up shop at the end. We get safe harbor and we say, okay, we've accomplished our mission and that's it. Why don't I'm going to put an asterisk next to this, Frank, so we don't lose sight of it, and circle back after we get our demographics and make sure that that's not the message we're sending in the housing production plan. All right. He also did point out, I went a little fast on the Phil DiMartino thing on his number 2, but he also pointed out that the planning board and select board can vote at a combined meeting, which is terrific. It's nice and efficient that way. So, all right. Anything else on the housing production plan update this evening? Oh, there was a question he had. Brian, Nels asked at the end of his email, he said, finally, let me know about the June 5th combined comprehensive plan - housing plan meeting. And we had said that we wanted to be sure that we weren't just tacked on to that like a caboose, that we had a chance to do an in-depth meeting on housing alone. Like, I don't mind if he wants to talk about housing at the comprehensive plan, the master plan meeting. I think it's appropriate. But what I don't want is that we get like 5 minutes of airtime because it's all mushed into one.
Sure. Okay. Well, first, it's June 4th is the day that we settled on.
So he wrote June 5th in this, but it's June
Right.
4th.
Well, I mean, I think there was a question we had June 4th or 5th.
Okay.
I think we finally settled on June 4th, and it's
right.
going to be held at the church, the Bullfinch Church. I walked through it when Clark yesterday, so we're going to try and turn it into a session, going over I know this is an aside, but then have it as a community event afterwards, but perhaps, hot dogs and ice cream or something, bring the family, bring the kids. Wayne is very open, and if we want to he wants to, because he's kind of coming down to the end of his scope of work. So he wants to present the draft in some detail. But then if we want to, I mean, what would be, with 30 minutes, another hour? I mean, what would you want to, I mean, do we want to invite Nels to come over and present what he has so far? Or what would be the objective, to have to present his findings to date?
Yeah, I think we want Nels there, and I think half hour is probably maybe even too long. How long is the presentation of the whole master plan?
Well, it's just, I mean, it goes through like what, 9 elements. So, and we did a very short presentation to the planning board, and that was close to an hour. Would you say, Frank?
Yes, I would say, well, the presentation was less, but there was significant discussion.
Right. So I would imagine it's going to be at least an hour to 90 minutes. So
I would ask him, I mean,
Yeah.
I want to hear what others have to say about this, but I would ask him to do a 10-minute overview of what our demographics show so far. This is in a month. The June 4th is roughly a month from today. So I think it has to be clear that the housing production plan has started after the master plan. So we're just giving them a taste of what we see so far. And I think he should do 10 minutes and then Q&A.
Sure. I mean, one suggestion would be, because I know that, Wayne is very cognizant that, his housing element is going to be, I don't want to say superseded, but, in many ways supplanted by the housing production plan. And so I think when he's going through he does it element by element. When he comes to housing, I think he might give, just a minute or two, but then give it the floor to Nels and have him, give a presentation on his data and findings so far. And I think that then he would just take it through the rest of the master plan.
I think it's perfect. And then I think, in the Q&A session, when folks have housing specific questions, I don't think Wayne should wade into those. I think it's Nels and people from the trust.
Sure. I mean,
what do others think about that? Does that sound like a reasonable approach? Yeah. So just to be clear, the master plan has been well underway for a while now. And is this Wayne's last presentation on June 4th? Is it like the unveiling of the master plan presentation?
Well, no, because then it'll have, because, based on feedback from that night, I mean, it's not going to be open for debate like the other sessions were open for, but it's just a presentation. But he will, he is leaving it open for additional revisions, based on that night. But no, he will have, that is going to be the final presentation, but not the final draft. He will come back afterwards at a later time with a final draft.
When is his project done?
June 30th. But he's planning on being done, well before that, because I think he's going on a trip or something. Okay.
Well, I think speak up now, Housing Trust members, if you disagree. I think we want to just roll with the June 4th is essentially Wayne's show, but we're just going to take the housing piece and give it to Nels to give us an update and explain at the meeting that the housing production plan started, like within the last several weeks. So we're just diving in now, but he could give us a sneak peek at what the demographics are showing so far. Okay, I would say 10 minutes of material. That's all. Yeah.
If that.
Yeah, if that, exactly. It's really Wayne's last chance to get feedback on the master plan, so I don't want to hijack it. But I think, yeah, if that 5 to 10 minutes of slides, and then we're there, and Nels is there for the Q&A for housing related questions and feedback.
Yep, that works.
I mean, I wouldn't shut Wayne out. I mean, he has he's very knowledgeable on all aspects of planning. So, I mean,
yes,
I don't think he's going to step on Nell's toes, but I would, he is certainly available for some good insight.
Absolutely, totally agree. Yes, Deb?
I guess just listening to I can visualize the meeting. I think sounds like a good plan. I just wondered if Nels is, I don't want to say obligated, but sticking around for the rest of this production and like waiting for Q&A, how long that is, and if that's a problem for him or if that's something that he does. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
That's fair. No, that's fair. Why don't we leave it up to him? I think we definitely want a public forum that is just housing at some point. And that one, I absolutely want him to stick around for Q&A. But I think that's fair, Deb. It's really maybe
just being caught, you know how things
being
can go, and
cognizant
he
of
could
it.
be
Yeah.
there for a couple hours, and I was like,
Right,
But-
right.
I mean-
Fair enough. Yeah, why don't you present it that way, Brian, that we want him
Sure.
there to do a 5 to 10 minute overview, sneak peek, preview of what the housing stats are showing and the demographics are showing, and maybe just our goals so far. And then
Other interviews.
he needs to duck out. That's okay. We don't have to hold him there
No, I
for.
mean, I think, if he was looking at those dates, I'm sure he's holding it, because don't forget, he's working for us. We're paying him. So I think, he'll be, more than happy to stick around unless he has something really pressing that he wouldn't be able to do that. But I'm sure he would be very, willing to come in and stick through the event. But I'll talk to him tomorrow, or I'll reach out to him tomorrow.
Okay, and could you remind him that we need to set up a public forum for housing specifically?
Oh, I'm sure he has that on his schedule. Yeah, but I will find out what he's looking at in terms of those dates.
Find out now what he's looking at in terms of dates so we can get it, we can secure a venue and do our advertising and all that stuff.
Right.
Okay. All right, cool. I have nothing else on the housing production plan unless you all do. Nope. Okay. That was item 4 on the agenda, rolling right along. Item 5, updates to our SHI pipeline. So my only update on number 1 is that, as far as I know, based on the schedule that Capital Group provided, the most recent version, which came out like a month ago, they are saying their MIPA submission is due for April, May timeframe. So that's all I have. That's all I know. The MIPA filing, and then I think they are doing a peer review, or not, they are not doing a peer review. The town hired a peer review consultant for the materials they submitted to the planning board and the Conservation Commission. Do I have that correct, Brian and Frank?
Yes, I think, however, the big takeaway from that is they have been exceptionally clear that the only reason they are doing this work is to preserve the zoning, and there is precisely zero urgency. So honestly, when I look at our list, if this is going to be on it, basically it just says the site is zoned for it. The developer is making minimal progress. I mean, at this point, I don't know what's up with Goodrich Brook, but that could break ground first. So
I think if you believe Bob DiPietri, he says that they've engaged their consultants and they've finished that phase and they're packaging it all up. I mean, I'm happy to have him come in. Maybe that's what we want to do. Is
if he wants to give us an update, that I'm sure people would find that to be fantastic. I can just say that from the planning board's perspective, they've been very clear that there is no urgency. Now, that may just be that they know MIPA's got them tied up for a year and that, they'll get through the planning and Concom process in plenty of time before MIPA rules. I have no idea. All I can say is that's what they've told the planning board.
Okay, I can ask Bob to come in and update us rather than us trying to speculate. Let's just find out. I'll just have him come in. Okay, I will do that. And that's the best way to get the truth. So
I didn't make a big deal about it. I just wanted to be clear in terms of how they've been appearing in front of the planning board. I mean, they're not going away. They will do it at some point, I am sure. Just in terms of timing, everybody else has permits and is doing things. That's my only
They
comment.
can't. I mean, they have to get through this MIPA thing, like that's their next
I know.
checklist. They have to do it, so. All right, I will ask, but that's what I've been told by Bob, but I'm gonna ask him to come in and do a live update. Bob DiPietri live at the Affordable Housing Trust. Neck
I
Farm,
want him at the Apollo Theater.
Neck Farm Estates, Brian, I know it's chugging along through the Board of Appeals. Would you like to speak to that one, the comprehensive permit application?
Sure. So, to this point, they've been coming on, and for the most part, we've reviewed the traffic and circulation, site plan, and any stormwater issues. Now, of course, they're not applying for a stormwater permit, they're under 1 acre. But they are, as far as the site is concerned. At the last meeting in Victoria, I believe you were there. So the sense so far is there seems to, well, at least for the people showing up to the meetings, there's a lot of opposition to the project, mainly based on it doesn't fit in the neighborhood and it's too dense for that lot. And a few neighbors are out talking about how, the parking will be very disruptive, and there's not, it's not realistic to expect that there won't be overflow parking on the streets, obstructing views and sightline. Our consultant that we hired for the project, Adam Costa, is cautioning the ZBA that if they were to deny the project based on simply density issues, that it's not likely it'll likely be approved by the HAC, the Housing Appeals Court. They're not going to be sympathetic to arguments from abutters and from the residents saying, well, it's just too dense, it doesn't fit in this neighborhood. The Housing Appeals Court firmly falls on the side of the state needs more affordable housing, and towns and communities need to do their share. The other concerns that are being brought up may be more pertinent to opposition. The fact that these are 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, and there's likely to be children involved living there, and there's very little open space on the premises for kids to play, and that there is a 4-way intersection with Centerbridge Road being a moderately busy road traffic-wise. So he's just recommending to the ZBA if they are of the mind, and I don't know if they are or they're not, to deny the project. They're going to have strong data around child safety issues. If that's the card they're going to play. And I don't mean to say they're playing games, but I mean if they wish to deny this and they feel strongly that the value of child safety and pedestrian safety and other vehicular safety is paramount and should outweigh the town's need for affordable housing, well, they have to provide some strong data to that point. I'm just looking over my notes here. Other concerns were, and this is something I intend to follow up on myself. There was an attorney from an abutters group or a single abutter, but talking about how the Housing Appeals Court had denied similar 40B projects because they were too dense. I'm not sure if misleading is the term, or but Adam Costa, being this is what he does, a lot of 40B projects. He says he personally very knowledgeable of those projects. He says they weren't denied simply because of density. There were other factors involved. So I think that was fairly misleading in terms of the point they were trying to make. And another point of opposition was, well, this is our historic district, and this doesn't fit into a historic district. So there is um, a cause for, say, me as a staff member of the ZBA to look into what other housing projects, 40B projects have been done in historic districts around this area. So that was, and then there are other questions about engineering, and I don't think we would need to go into that there. But from an engineering standpoint, even our peer review is saying it's pretty solid. Some of the big concerns are snow storage. They're claiming that the applicant is claiming that there's enough storage for 1 foot of snow. Anything more than that, they're going to have to do snow removal. So it'll just be the timing. And there are concerns. We still wait. The narrowness of the applicant did come back and change their site design, sacrificing 2 or 3 parking spaces in order to put in angled parking, which gives more maneuverability for the residents there to be parking in their spaces with fewer turning maneuvers. I guess my question for the housing committee is, I'm again, just in terms of affordability, where does the housing, I'm not sure if it's fair for me to ask this question, but does the Affordable Housing Trust, I said committee, that's the committee I'm on here in Pepperell, are they in favor of this project?
Well, we submitted our comment letter in, I forget what month now, but during the public comment period, Brian, he wrote, and I can send you a copy of it. It might have been, I think it was before you had arrived.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm just wondering.
So
I'm not being critical.
Yeah, I mean, our comment letter wasn't like, the town needs the housing. So our job at the Affordable Housing Trust is to build affordable housing. So, I mean, that's our charge. That's why we're here. That's why we exist. So, so in that vein, yes, we want to see the units built.
Mhm.
That being said, we listed the pros and the cons that we saw when the project was brought to us. The applicant had a prior project. I think you know that, Brian, like a year before this project, they had a different project. Even over a year before that, they had an initial project. This was even before the Housing Trust existed, I think. And they went back to the drawing board. It got so much negative opposition. They didn't even go to the ZBA. They just did like kind of like a dog and pony show at a select board meeting with the town administrator, and they just kind of got pummeled. The project looked very different. It was not this project. It looked totally different. They went back to the drawing board.
On the same site?
Same site. Yeah, it was the same site. It was the same owner. But they had not hired an architectural firm. They hadn't tried to make the project look like the historic district. It was totally different. It was kind of like no relationship to the surroundings. Similar number of units, and they just got really a lot of pushback at that select board meeting. I think they were like dipping their toe in the water. I have no idea why they presented this at a select board meeting. It was very unusual to do it that way, but they did. Anyway, they went away and nobody heard anything for at least a year, maybe even 2 years. And then they popped up having hired an architectural firm that does a lot of 40B work, an actual design firm that took into consideration the surrounding area. And that's when they came up with the farm look, the farm approach. So it was a really big effort on their part to acknowledge the feedback and that they were in an historic district. Now, it may be that the abutters feel that it's not enough and needs to look more historical. Who's to say they wouldn't take that feedback and provide specific things that were asked of them? I don't know. But if that's one of the complaints, I mean, that seems like it could be perhaps, if they're going in that direction, a more historical look, maybe they need to go further, and maybe they would. But I'd like to send you a copy of our letter because it listed the pros and the cons as the Affordable Housing Trust saw it.
Mhm.
And then that was done during the public comment period that mass housing is required to have by law when they have that like 30-day public comment period. And that went into, our feedback went into the letter that was prepared by the town administrator. So
Mhm.
she got feedback from all the boards, including affordable housing. And so, she has a letter as well. You might want to read that one, but I will give you ours. And our letter, I think it's on our website. If not, I'll make sure that you get it. And Kate's, I think, is probably on our website. But yeah, I mean, in general, we're in favor of projects that successfully bring us the units that we need, but that do so with the least impact on abutters, and do so in ways that are intelligent and follow best practice and do take on board feedback from abutters to the extent that is possible. We don't have the right under the state laws. We don't have the right to render a project what the term is uneconomic. So we cannot render a project financially
Right.
we can't do that. We can't say, oh, it's too dense and you have to cut all these units back. Diminishing profit to a point where it's no longer worth it for the developer to even do it. So that comes through in the pro forma. And I was curious why Adam Costa said something. Jean Rich asked about the pro forma. Can we get a copy of the pro forma to see, if we could take some units out and it would still make the profit margin that's allowed under 40B? It's true that they don't have to give us their pro forma. They do give it to mass housing, but they're not required. I don't think they're required to. But I think in the law, it says that if there's a public health and safety concern, then maybe there's like some language about then maybe they have to. I don't know. Maybe
Well,
that's okay to get it. I don't know.
Right. And I think, and most, and I think the understanding is, most of these developers come in with higher density, and that they probably and they're going to push for the density that they're proposing, but they could probably live with 1 or 2 units less, but not many more. So that, I mean, there's still that possibility, but but just moving forward with it, we are on 180-day deadline. So
Right.
I believe the public hearing has to close on June 14th. I know it's in June. 14th. I'm not sure if that's the day. I counted out the days. I just can't remember the date, the calendar, the thing my finger landed on. But to that point, and this jumping ahead a little ahead on I saw your agenda. We're holding a special meeting on May 16th.
I realized that after I wrote the fourth Thursday, ZBA is usually the fourth Thursday, but I saw that in the meeting recording that you moved this one up to May.
Well, I mean, it's a more or less a special meeting because we're still going to hold our May 23rd meeting, but this is May 16th to focus exclusively on the Neck Farm project.
Okay.
And moving it up a little in case we need, because we're getting down to very few meetings before we have to make a decision. As the DBA has to make a decision. So, all right, so that's pretty much it. Like I say, there's a fair amount of opposition from abutters, and just so I'm not sure if the applicant is coming back with any further revisions. I haven't seen anything yet. But that's it for now.
Okay. Well, we're here if there's anything that, anything else that we can do. I'll send you our 3-page comment letter on the project. Oh, I did have a question. Did they revise the layout? I thought I watched the recording and it looked like they had actually revised the site layout.
Well, slightly. Like I say, they changed the
They did the angled parking, but did
the
they?
angled parking, and they changed the circulation to one way only to enter from Neck Road and leave from onto Center Bridge Road. And I believe they tried to widen from 20 feet to 22 or 23 feet, but I'm not sure if they were able to achieve that. They were trying to. But other
Widen
than
their, you mean widen what?
the driveway.
Okay.
Yeah. And the other thing was, and what they haven't yet, but we're pushing them to change, a stormwater conveyance from the site that they have going into a storm drain, a catch basin as opposed to a storm drain. But that's not. I'm not sure if people here are interested in that, but that's more of a conservation issue.
Yeah.
But it's out of the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction, but it is of some concern to folks who are concerned about, carrying sediment eventually into the river.
Where are they with their sewer credits? And
Yeah, well, that's the big thing. There are no sewer credits to be at. So, in the end, it's probably a moot question because they're not going to have their sewer credit. But I suppose that it'll be worth their while to get through this and try to get an approved project just pending sewer credits. But there are no sewer credits, and there's no seems that they're not. There's the Lancaster Sewer District doesn't have anything promising telling them. They don't know how they're going to be able to free these up. Just on a side note, I am working with Weston and Sampson on submitting a application to the One Stop under the Family Housing Infrastructure Program to get a multi-phase sewer improvements project that will eventually, not focusing on this project by any means, but housing in general and affordable housing in Lancaster.
So they could go through all the machinations, and then if there's no sewer available, then they basically have.
Yeah, they would be on a waiting list.
They'd be on a waiting list. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. That's helpful. Any other questions or comments about the Neck Road 40B? No? Okay. Laurel Hill, we did get our letter into the planning board. I don't think there's a substantive update, Carolyn. So if there is, you can recuse. But Frank, or actually Brian, they're not scheduled to come back and see you anytime soon, are they?
I haven't. I actually emailed Peter Campabasso today.
Yeah.
Asking, is there an update? If you drive by the site, they have, a grading machinery there, and it looks like they're starting to build a road. So I'm trying to get a hold of him, asking him what's going on there. He needs to let us know. Because as far as I know, the cease and desist is still on, and I don't think that they've gotten anything from the conservation department saying that their issues with the detention basin have been authorized to move forward.
So this is the new cease and desist?
No, this is from no, it's not a new one. I think it's just the same one that was on before.
I thought there was one that got lifted.
Partially lifted, but then I believe it was partially lifted, but then it was. It's still in effect in the sense that the detention pond, there was some mistake where there was a substantial amount of sedimentation flowing from the detention basin because they forgot to. I think the long story short is when they had the smaller detention basin that was undersized, they had to they had to drain it, and to do so, they had to put that pipe, an outflow pipe, but they forgot to take it out, and so when the larger detention basin was in operation, it never filled up. All the sedimentation was flowing into Bow Brook. So that was I believe, for whatever happened. So that was, now the idea was, they were allowing this detention basin to stabilize over the winter. And now I think they should be getting close to the point where they need to evaluate it and see if it's ready to go. So the planning board, we're waiting for that to happen. So, but I haven't heard from Peter in a month or so. So I reached out to him today to see if we can get an update of what's going on there.
Okay,
And,
thank you.
and expect to move forward.
Okay. And then the last one was just this property rehab on Main Street. We're just trying so hard to get that added, that one unit added to our SHI. The only thing holding us up now is that Mr. Safi hasn't applied for the second part of the building permit. He applied for an exterior building permit, got it. And then that was months and months ago. But he hasn't applied to our building inspector for the interior building permit. So the state won't give us the unit in our SHI because we can't produce a copy of both exterior and interior building permits. So I reached out to Maureen O'Hagan, who's his affordable lottery housing agent, and asked her to find out when he intends to file his building permit application so we can attach it once it's approved and get credit for that one unit. So she has reached out to him this week. She's waiting to hear back. So that's the story there. But we really want to get that one unit in our inventory. Any comments, questions about projects? Anything we missed on? I want to just, I realized I forgot to ask one thing. For the Neck Farm thing, didn't the town hire Van Ass to do the traffic peer review and they did it? And
Yeah.
in a very like succinct nutshell, what did they say? For traffic, was it okay or was it?
Well, there's like a lot of review letters. They pushed back on a few points, especially the maneuverability. They pushed back on some on-street parking. They didn't like in the course of the chief of police or our new safety commissioner is questioning the sight lines. But for the most part, Vanessa was in support of what they did, but there were some issues, especially around the parking and the maneuverability.
Okay, and this will get addressed?
Some, like I say, they on those points, they did change the angle parking. They did change it from one way. So those were suggestions that Vanessa had made.
I see. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's helpful. Okay. All right.
The peer review was up on the site.
Okay. And are you going to can you send me a copy of those revised plans, even though they're not major revisions, like the angled parking, the one way,
and that's up on the website as well, but I'll send them to you.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay. Well, I'd like to put it on ours.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And
can you just send me an email on that, Victoria?
What's that?
Can you just send me an email with that? Just so
yeah, for sure. Yep, I'll make a note. Yep, no problem. Thanks, Brian. Anything else on projects? Questions, comments, feedback, anything? Nope. No. Okay. Number 6, I don't have any updates to our existing subsidized housing inventory. There is a unit for sale I noticed at Meditation Lane, but I checked it's not an affordable. If anybody notices Meditation Lane condominium for sale, it's not one of the 25% of those units are affordable, but this is not one of the affordable units. All right. And number 7, correspondence. So this is an interesting topic. We talked about a site like 6 months ago in North Lancaster on Old Union Turnpike. A resident had brought this to our attention, Kara Sanford, and she was suggesting that the Affordable Housing Trust take a look at it because it's town-owned land, roughly 20 acres. It's 21 point something to be exact. And we did look at it, but we didn't really pursue it at the time. It looked in the aerial photography to be heavily forested. And that was a concern. There was also a concern about, was it being land banked by the town for the DPW? There was question of like, was there supposed to be a well as a well site, future well site or something? Anyway, so we didn't do much with it. It was just kind of flagged as something to maybe go in the housing production plan, a future site perhaps. Especially with the 40R in close proximity. It seemed like the 40R was a much better site with more housing, the public transportation that we had negotiated for the site, adjacent jobs, trails, all the bells and whistles of the 40R. So we kind of just put it on the side. A resident approached me with an email about looking at this site. And I just want to give the context. And Jason, you know a lot about this background as well. The resident it's David Murphy. He has been very vocal about his road, Fire Road 8, being adopted as a town road. He'd really like to see that happen. He was not able to achieve that, but in another creative way, he thought perhaps if the town developed affordable housing on that parcel at the end of his road, that somehow that could be linked to the developer improving the road and then having the town adopt it and maintain it, sanding, plowing, all that stuff in perpetuity. He asked if we could meet at the site. I did take a look at the site. I went out there. I will say that it's not heavily forested, although it looks that way in the aerial photographs. It's not. It's a lot of really kind of like scrub brush and new growth, pines and so forth. He did speak with Kate Hodges about it. The issue, he set off a domino effect with like 3 or 4 emails coming in from residents in the association. There's a Spec Pond Association down there, and they were all adamantly opposed when they heard about this. And then David himself was opposed when I explained that as town-owned land, we'd want to get deeply affordable units and probably rentals to help bring us into safe harbor faster. And so then he backpedaled and no longer was at all interested in seeing this happen. So that was a very interesting situation that all happened between last Saturday and today. So I just wanted to brief the board on it. The easiest way to do that was at this meeting tonight. I do think that the town-owned sites need to be in our housing production plan. Anytime, as we've talked about ad nauseum, anytime we can bring town-owned land or real estate, vacant buildings to the table, it allows us to do more deeply affordable housing. So we can contribute that and make the cash flow work better for like 30% area median income, like Bigelow Gardens, instead of these 80% 40Bs that remain simply too expensive for a lot of people. So a town-owned piece of land that, the other thing about it, having walked it, is that it has a nice flat grade to it for the most part. So, it has potential as a housing site, but as town-owned land, that's a really rare resource. And yeah, sure, the town gets additional land that comes in as, tax foreclosure and stuff. But you have to wait a long time for those sites. And here's a 20-acre site. So, I would really push hard for that to be deeply affordable and, and rentals, because we don't have enough rentals, and rentals do bring us safe harbor faster. But to which he was not as interested in that. His vision was more like a 20, maybe 20 units max on like 1 acre each, kind of single family homes, kind of thing, which if you can find a model to make that deeply affordable, then, we can talk about it, but he was not interested in, something more dense or more, the deeply affordable piece and so forth. So anyway, but the site is between Fire Road 8 and Fire Road 7, which also brought up the question of, I said, since it straddles it's right in the middle of those two fire roads out on Old Union Turnpike, I said, I don't think we could pursue having your road adopted without, looking at it. You should sort of have to do both. And I don't know if the town wants to take that expense on. I don't think it's fair to just do one. And I have no idea if the town would want to, take on two fire roads, and what is the implication to the rest of the private roads in town? So I
Yeah,
think apples and oranges. I think it's two separate issues.
yeah, a couple of things there. One, I did get a call or an email, I can't remember which, on Monday, I think, and pretty sure it must have been the site that you're talking about, because I hadn't heard anything about it. Someone said, we heard rumors to the effect that the town was going to develop this, and I said, well, I hadn't heard anything about it, so I couldn't. But then when I got back to him, he said, "Oh no, we found out the source of the rumors and we're all set." So I don't know what that meant. But on the other side, I mean, I'm just thinking in terms of other landowners. There, we have someone who has 3 acres of land, and he on one of the fire roads, and he would like to build a home on his lot for his son, but it doesn't work out. He can't build, he can try to subdivide his land, but he wouldn't have the space, the area required. But at the same time, I think it's Fire Road 50, I forget which one, 8 and 9 or 11 and 12. I can't remember which ones, but there are two of the fire roads come in and actually cross his property. And so here, in this instance, you'd have someone who's being denied use of his land to build a home for his family, and he's paying taxes on his land that the other people are using. They literally, these roads are running over his land. But then if someone else comes in and puts 20 units of housing on, that would. I'm just thinking from this person's point of view, that would be a tough thing to swallow. But anyways, yes, we need the housing, and a lot is coming up from those fire roads, building permits, special permit requests, variance requests. A lot's going on over there.
Yeah, there was, I should say, just in my description, it was flagged in one of the emails that was sent in rapid succession once word got out that the resident had proposed this. I received something that a portion of that site is in the Mass Biomap Local
Right.
Aquatic Habitat Buffer.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not the entire parcel. It looks to be about, I'd say 1/6 of the southernmost portion.
That sounds like the same email I got.
Yeah, so something to bear in mind, but it's not by any means the whole parcel. So I don't know. I think it just needs to be flagged in the housing production plan as a, something down the road kind of site. But I think the 40R is a much better site for all the reasons that we've listed over and over again, with all the amenities that it has. So, but I just wanted to make sure the board was aware that there was a little bit of activity last week about that particular parcel.
And we still have DCAM on the horizon.
Yes, which is still tied up with the legislature, right?
Right. We haven't gotten any news from them.
Okay, but the clock is ticking. It can't just be tied up with the legislature forever. Deb, any thoughts on that? Or, I mean, it's with the legislature, but don't we have a window of like when we have to tell DCAM yay or nay?
Yeah, tell that to the legislature.
Yeah.
I mean, first, from what I understand, there's 3 readings and they've gone through the first, and then there's a vote and then to the governor. And so we can keep our fingers crossed for the fall, maybe in time for the fall meeting. I don't know.
Okay,
I don't
well,
know. I'm hearing what you're, I mean, it is, that's where it is. It's still the legislature. Yeah.
okay.
And
Well,
it's at
hopefully
it's
DCAM
at that beginning stage, sort of middle stage. I don't know whether it's beginning, middle stage, but
I don't know how strict DCAM is with their deadline, but they're a state agency, so they have to understand that their colleagues on Beacon Hill are what's holding it up. It's not us.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm moving on. Is there any, on section 8, any public comment? I see we have a resident here this evening. Nope. Going once, going twice? Okay. Any new business this evening? I know Kelly, and I traded a couple emails. She's still planning on doing the housing forum series, which I'm super excited about. But Kelly, jump in. But I think that you're still pinning down the speakers and you're not quite ready to announce any dates or anything yet, right?
That's correct. I just have a few more people to reach out to and collect dates. And then I'll have an update on that. We are going to look to shoot for the fall to have this be a fall series, just
Awesome.
because summers are not as busy at the community center.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you, Kelly. And under communications, annual town meeting, Monday, May 6th at 7 o'clock at Mary Rowlandson. Doors open at 6. Annual town election, Monday, May 13th, voting 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the former town hall. Neck Farm Estates comprehensive permit hearing is continued to Thursday, May 16th, and not May 23rd, as it says on the agenda, May 16th at 7 o'clock in the Nashway room of the Prescott building and also via Zoom. And our next Affordable Housing Trust meetings, Thursday, June 6th at 7 o'clock. And normally it would be the first Thursday of July, but that's July 4th. So we as a housing trust will need to choose either July 3rd or either the day before would be an option, or just go to the next Thursday, July 11th. And I'm just flagging it for now. I think no one really knows at this point what their July looks like, but we will have to make that decision at our next meeting on June 6th. So, all right. If there is nothing else this evening, going once, going twice, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Frank. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Carolyn. Any discussion? No, we'll do a roll call vote to close our meeting. Housing Trust, Trustee Jason Allison,
Yes.
Trustee Carolyn Reed,
Yes.
Trustee Frank Streeter,
Yes.
Trustee Deborah Williams,
yes.
and Trustee Victoria Petracca, yes. We are adjourned, Housing Trust, at 8:05 p.m. Thank you, everyone.